Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I don't want to sound like a Captain Obvious here, but we know that the role of the media is to inform us with, giving us information that we like or we don't like. That should not be a consideration for them. They just have to get the information and give it to us. That would be the role of the media. That's it. Inform us. Don't withhold information from us and give us only the information that somehow maybe we want to hear, or maybe some other people say that that's what we have to hear only. That's not media. That is already propaganda, and it's not an objective media. That is a agenda media. And why do I say that? I say that because this article that I'm going to discuss in this video has to do with some information coming from the media, but the information that comes from the media comes only about one side. You're not going to hear the other information coming about the other side. I mean, you in a war, the media, if the media were doing their job, would be informing you of both sides. I'm not saying that they have to keep a balance. They give you the information that they have. And I have a little gut feeling that tells me that the media is not providing us with information that doesn't fit a certain kind of narrative. I mean, obviously, I'm sounding like Captain Obvious here, but I have to start by saying that before I will discuss this article, which comes from The Hill, and it's from February 3rd, 2023, and this is the title. Officials say Russian troops killed, wounded in Ukraine approaching 200,000, a report. Now, if mass media would be, at least the free mass media, independent mass media of the so-called West and of the free world, if that would be a free mass media, as they say it is, they will also tell us the casualties and the losses of the other side, don't you think? Which is Ukraine. But I bet, aside from that one time that Ursula von der Leyen, the so-called president of the European Commission, just said it, you've never heard how many Ukrainian losses were there and are there. The only time was when she said it, and the next day, not the next day, and the next hour, the Ukrainians called her and said, what the are you talking about? And then the European Union deleted that from their website, and her statement and all that. So that tells you something. Now, even if von der Leyen, then was wrong, I never heard of any other newspaper telling us, you know what, this is, New York Times want to inform you of the Russians' losses, want to inform you of the Ukrainian losses. I don't think they do not have the Ukrainian losses. I cannot believe they don't have it. But somehow they have the Russians estimate the report. It's hard to believe, I would say impossible, but anyway, let's move on and see what these weasels are saying. American officials estimate that nearly 200,000 Russian troops have been killed or wounded in Moscow's nearly year-long conflict with Ukraine, the New York Times reported. Now, the New York Times, either the American officials, which should be impartial, aren't they? Are they at war with Russia? Last time I checked, no. So then, why don't they tell us about the Ukrainian losses? Why doesn't New York Times find that out? Anyway, the rising number of casualties. It's kind of like how should I put it? A quiet, this silence everywhere. You don't hear anything about it. I remember Putin. Yes, that bad dude. Remember when Georgia invaded South Ossetia? They did that while Putin was in Beijing Olympics. So he was over there. They invaded while he was over there, thinking that he cannot do anything about it. And why? What has Russia to do with South Ossetia? By a United Nations mandate, the Russian peacekeeping forces were located there by United Nations mandate. Remember, it was not the Russians. You can turn it, twist it however you want. So they had a mandate. When those guys attacked, unprovoked, they killed some Russians from the peacekeeping mission over there, mandated by, as I said, United Nations. And then Putin from there, he said, the mass media of the West was, I think he said, like 48 hours or 24 hours, quiet, nothing, silence. He said, rarely I've seen such a regimentation and an order followed so strictly. Nobody said anything about these guys attacking South Ossetia, nothing. So that you can find a video on YouTube when he says that. Now you don't have to believe Putin, no, but just use your information now, and tell me how many newspapers you found so far talking about the Ukrainian losses in Ukraine war. You tell me how many. Mention me 2, because one could be someone who said something and then retracted or something. So that tells me, that makes my point, actually. So it says here that the rising number of casualties is driven in part by heavy fighting in Bakhmut and Soledar in eastern Ukraine, where Russia is increasingly sending poorly trained recruits and convicts to the front lines in an effort to deplete Ukrainian artillery, according to Times. Now, if your regular army, organized, disciplined, trained, is losing to the convicts and the poorly trained Russians, I would keep my mouth shut. I would not even mention that, because I'm looking. So if those guys beat you, how good are you then? That's one thing. Another way to figure out that the mass media is not doing its job, that I said at the beginning of this video, is telling me one thing, I don't want to say neutral, I don't want to say positive, I say neutral thing that these guys reported about Russia. I understand Russia is the bad dude here and so on, but can't they find anything that would be neutral? I don't want them to say, hey, Russia took Bakhmut or Soledar. No, it's okay with that. You don't have to, throw a party for that. But at least say something. They always mention, I don't know, every time I read it, must be somewhere, some good articles, where they say poorly trained criminal Russians, war criminals, attack civilians, destroy villages, which I'm pretty sure they do. But did you hear the other side doing that? And if your answer is they don't do it, then bye-bye, you can turn off this video right now. All right? To go and watch, CNN. All right? Continue to watch CNN. Let's put it this way. All right? I'm not here to please anyone. I'm here to assess certain things, and I think I'm right. Why? Give me examples. Everything. The Russian military is bad. Their infrastructure is poor. Their generals are drunk. Putin is a criminal. Putin has cancer. Their S-400s are garbage. Their tanks are nothing. Their weapons are not working. They are poorly clothed. They have poor booze. They don't have food. They're full of syphilis. They're full of... That's what I said. The Wagner Group is a mercenary organization. Prigozhin is this. Prigozhin is that. Kadyrov is this. Kadyrovites are that. You tell me one thing. But if you look on the map, somehow these bad, prepared, ill, whatever, fed people and sick, they're advancing somehow against this organized, disciplined army of Ukraine with the good weapons of the Western countries. Doesn't make sense in the real world. In fantasy world, it makes sense. If you want fantasy world, I have a few books. Actually, I don't have, but I have one that I don't want to mention it. All right, it's with anyway. Or I don't know. Look at how do you call that? Alice in Wonderland. That's a perfect book. Perfect book where up is down and down is up. That's like these guys are telling us now. They're poorly trained, but they're winning. How in the hell? Or at least they're advancing. All right, you see here. So whereas Russia is increasingly sending poorly trained recruits and convicts to the front line in an effort to deplete Ukrainian artillery, according to the Times. And they're taking Soledar, they're taking these things. However, officials have warned that the casual numbers which are based on satellite imagery. So if you have satellite images of the Russians, you 100% have satellite images of the Ukrainians. Intercepted communications, the same way. Social media, on the ground regrouping, reporting, and official government numbers are difficult to estimate and imprecise. Okay, but if you make statements, you have what you apply for the Russians, you can apply for the Ukrainians. Ukrainian officials have warned recently that Russia has amassed about 500,000 troops on the border in preparation for a new offensive push as the first anniversary of the war approaches. Now, if Ukraine would say that Russia amassed 5 million, how could you and I verify that? We can't. So they can say whatever they want. Do you think that Wall Street Journal would push back, or Washington Times, or New York Times, or Washington whatever? Do you think those guys will bring? No, it's not 500,000, or not 3 million, it's only 300,000. Do you think Washington Post? My bad, Washington Times. Anyway, I was like, something doesn't sound right there. And I'm quoting, now Russia is concentrating its forces. We all know that. I know because these guys are telling me, but what they tell me, I can't verify. So what the hell? We all know that. Who's we? Who's we? Am I included in we? Or no? Or you guys only? It is preparing to try to take revenge. No, these guys think that Russians are thinking as toddlers. You know, you took my candy, I'm going to take it back, I'm going to punch you somewhere and kick you somewhere else. That's how they think that if the Russians were, as these guys are saying, which is so emotional, they would have used nuclear weapons so far, 10 months ago to take revenge. Why did they have to lose so much personnel and army to take revenge? Why do they have to lose so much? They use nuclear weapons and the revenge is there for everyone, not only for the Ukrainians and Zelensky. They will take care of everybody, including themselves. Not only against Ukraine, but against a free Europe and a free world. Bull, bull, bull. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Thursday. Again, this is just for children, toddlers. Toddler mentality for toddler audience. After a series of embarrassing losses last year, again, Russia has seen some of its first successes in months, gaining ground around Bakhmut in recent weeks. Okay, here is a reporting that, it's balanced. But again, a series of embarrassing losses last year. Okay, look on the map. Just have to look on the map and find out. Again, the Russians lost, according to these guys, approaching 200,000, they say in the title. And then American officials estimated nearly 200,000 were killed. Okay, killed and wounded. Anyway, man, it's just, how should I put it? It's too obvious. I mean, I think you have to have, I don't even want to say it. I will say it. I think you either are very low IQ, or you just are so embedded in your ideology and the make-believe that you want it to be like that you ignore everything else, which is obviously shows intellectual dishonesty, and the one that's going to lose is going to be you, the person, because imagine that person being somewhere where has to make objective decisions or follow rules in his life. I wonder how in the hell these guys are driving a car. How in the hell they go to the toilet and they take and they use instead of using why do they use toilet paper? Why don't they think maybe using just my palm is easier and then lick it or something? I mean, really, if they have this kind of make believe kind of attitude, and this kind of people get in positions of power and they make policies that we have to follow, and then you think, well, if you were so strong and so smart, why are you here and there over there? Well, you tell me. That means some rules somewhere are wrong. Who made those rules? How did we get to implement and create those rules? Well, democratically electing. So if you have 10 thieves here and you're with 2 more honest people, they will vote you out and they will make rules. What kind of rules they would make? Your rules or their rules? So this is the beauty of democracy, of mass democracy, that works just fine. If these guys want tomorrow, through democracy, for instance, to tax a certain kind of segment of the society to death, they can do that. And they say, well, we use democracy. Is that how it works? There should be some, somewhere a balance, something. That's how you say, well, that's why if you're strong and smart, you should win. Well, if you have the mass media and you influence all these individuals, who's got the mass media? Influence these guys. And if they're lazy, because it's hard to take a phone and start looking into it or read certain books, you better watch TV and watch some stupid stuff over there, and you don't read anything. Or you read, what's the new thing now that a segment of population is that, how's that, fiction, I think? Something like fiction. Why do you read fiction? Why don't you read reality? Why do you immerse yourself in that shallow, is like a dream, is like a movie that you're watching? And then you go and vote. And I ask you, where do you get your information? From your soft porn that you watch, 50 Shades of Grey and this kind of things that are bestsellers? Is that what it is? And you go and vote based on what? All right, this is a society we're, lurking in between all these people. How can we make it better? Communicating, debating them, and most of all, keeping our soul and brains healthy, and accumulate as much knowledge as we can, and have courage to speak up. Because you will win in debates with these guys, because it's hard for them to use this. They want to make you shut up. Why? Because it's hard for them to use this. So they rather say, no, you can't talk, because it takes effort to think, and it takes effort to accumulate knowledge. So they will not accumulate knowledge, but they accumulate power through voting. And they get over there in power, and they're going to tell you, you shut up. No, he's not allowed to talk, because we're going to label him as Gigi. And Gigi is a bad term. So Gigis are not allowed to talk, because they spread this kind of misinformation, disinformation, papa information, mama information. So you gotta be outside of everything, and then only the acceptable views will be allowed on and others. All right? So we don't scare the lemmings. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.